Let me ask you something personal. Do you ever lie down at night, finally off your feet, and instead of feeling relief, your legs feel like two logs of wet concrete? Heavy, aching, restless, sometimes throbbing. And you think to yourself, I didn't even do anything today. I barely walked. Why do my legs feel like this? You shift to the left. You shift to the right. You hang one leg off the edge of the bed. Nothing works. And sleep, the one thing your body desperately needs to heal, becomes this elusive, frustrating thing that you chase until 2 in the morning. Now here's what I want you to understand before we go any further. That heaviness is not normal, and it is not just aging. I am a vascular and internal medicine specialist, and I have been practicing for over 22 years. I have sat across from thousands of patients, good, hard-working people just like you, who came to me complaining about tired, heavy, swollen legs at night.
And almost every single time, when we dig deeper, when we look at their lifestyle, their diet, their daily habits, we find the same culprits, over and over again. And you know what breaks my heart? These people had no idea. None. They thought they were doing everything right. They thought they were being careful. Some of them were even following advice they got from well-meaning doctors decades ago. Advice that is now, in light of what we know about aging physiology, actually making things worse. I see this tragedy every day in my practice. A woman comes in at 67. Her ankles are swollen by 3 in the afternoon. She can't sleep because her legs ache and twitch. She tells me she's been drinking sports drinks to stay hydrated. She tells me she eats low-fat everything. She tells me she takes a walk every evening and then puts her feet up when she gets home. She looks at me and says, "Doctor, how did I not know? How has nobody told me this?"
And I have to tell her, the damage didn't happen overnight. This has been building, quietly, silently, steadily, for decades. Because here's the brutal biological truth that nobody in a doctor's waiting room ever tells you. What your body could handle at 30, it cannot handle at 60. The rules of the game have changed. Your circulation is different. Your kidneys process things differently. Your veins, especially the ones in your legs, are working against gravity every single day, and they are getting tired. And certain things you eat, drink, and do every single day are accelerating that damage in ways that don't show up on a standard blood test until the problem is already serious. We're talking about consequences that go far beyond uncomfortable nights. We're talking about peripheral artery disease, where the blood supply to your legs becomes so compromised that walking becomes painful.
We're talking about chronic venous insufficiency, where the valves in your leg veins fail and fluid pools in your tissues like a flooded basement with a broken sump pump. We're talking about the kind of circulatory damage that, left unchecked, can contribute to blood clots, kidney dysfunction, and yes, in the most serious cases, heart failure. And the saddest part? Most of it is preventable, and a good portion of it is reversible if you stop doing the right things starting today. So today I'm going to walk you through 5 silent habits, 5 things that are poisoning your circulation and destroying the health of your legs every single night. We're going to count them down from serious to the one that I promise will shock you most. I call them silent because they don't announce themselves. They wear disguises. They hide in your kitchen cabinet, in your evening routine, in the very habits you think are keeping you healthy. Stick with me through all 5. Because number 1, the one I call the wolf in sheep's clothing, is almost certainly something you did today. Something you might be holding in your hand right now. Let's begin. But before we get into the countdown, I need to give you a foundation. Because if you understand why this is happening in your body, the 5 habits I'm about to reveal will make complete, undeniable sense. I want you to picture your circulatory system like a city's water and drainage infrastructure. When the city is young, brand new pipes, powerful pumps, clean channels, water flows in, waste flows out. Everything is efficient. Everything is balanced. Even if someone pours a little grease down one drain, the system has enough pressure, enough volume, enough redundancy to flush it through. Now imagine that same city after 60 years of use. The pipes have narrowed slightly from decades of mineral buildup. The pumps, your heart specifically, are still working hard, but they're working harder than they used to, against more resistance. The drainage channels, your veins, your lymphatic system, have lost some of their elasticity. The valves that are supposed to push fluid upward from your feet back toward your heart, some of them have grown weak. They're not closing properly anymore. Now pour that same grease down the drain. It doesn't flush. It sits there. It accumulates. It blocks. And over time, the entire downstream system starts to back up. That backup is what you feel as heavy, swollen, aching legs at night. The fluid, the water, the inflammatory compounds, the metabolic waste products has nowhere to go. Gravity has been pulling it down all day, and the system that's supposed to pump it back up simply can't keep pace anymore. And here's the critical thing I need you to understand. This is not a sudden failure. This is cumulative damage.
At age 20, your endothelium, that's the delicate inner lining of your blood vessels, was smooth, flexible, and remarkably resilient. It could absorb insults. It could recover. At 60 plus, that same lining has experienced decades of inflammation, oxidative stress, and microscopic scarring. It is thinner, more fragile, less forgiving. Think of it like a rubber band. A new rubber band stretches easily and snaps back to shape. Take that same rubber band and leave it in a drawer for 30 years. Pull it. It doesn't bounce back the same way. Pull it too hard, and it breaks. Your veins and arteries are that rubber band, and certain everyday habits, the 5 I'm about to reveal, are the hands that keep pulling, pulling, pulling on that band, day after day, night after night. The good news, and I want you to hold on to this through the entire video, is that the human body, even at 60, even at 70, even at 80, has a remarkable and tenacious capacity to heal when you remove the things that are hurting it. You cannot undo 60 years overnight, but you can start today. And every day that you make these changes, your body will respond. I promise you that. I have seen it happen in my office, in my patients' lives. So let's talk about what we need to stop, starting with habit number 5. And I want to be very careful here, because this is not simply about don't eat salt. Everyone knows salt can cause fluid retention. That's not a secret. What is a secret, and what I see misleading my patients every single week, is where that sodium is actually hiding. It is not hiding in your salt shaker. People over 60 are getting the majority of their excess sodium not from what they sprinkle, but from what they buy. It's hiding in your whole grain bread, sometimes 200 milligrams per slice. So 2 slices of heart-healthy toast gives you 400 milligrams before you've added a thing.
It's hiding in your canned vegetables, even the no-sugar-added ones. It's hiding in your cottage cheese, your deli turkey, your vegetable broth, your pickles, and, pay close attention here, your sports drinks and electrolyte waters that are marketed specifically to older adults for hydration. I have patients who gave up the salt shaker entirely and are still consuming 3,500 to 4,000 milligrams of sodium per day without knowing it. Here is what excess sodium does to your legs specifically. Sodium is what scientists call an osmotic agent. That's a fancy way of saying it pulls water. Wherever sodium goes in your body, water follows it. It has no choice. It's basic chemistry. When you consume too much sodium, your blood becomes saltier than it should be.
Your body, in its wisdom, tries to dilute that saltiness by pulling more water into your bloodstream. This increases your blood volume. Your heart has to pump harder, and the pressure inside your blood vessels, especially the small ones, the capillaries, goes up. Now here's where your legs specifically suffer. Those capillaries in your lower legs, under all that extra pressure, begin to leak. Literally. Fluid seeps out of the blood vessels and into the surrounding tissue, into your ankles, into your calves. That is the puffiness and the heaviness you feel. And at night, when you lie down, that fluid doesn't just disappear. It redistributes, shifting around your body, sometimes causing that uncomfortable, restless, almost suffocating feeling in your lower limbs. Moreover, and this is the part that disturbs me most, excess sodium directly damages your endothelium, that delicate inner lining of your blood vessels I mentioned earlier. It creates what researchers call endothelial dysfunction. The lining becomes stiff, inflamed, and less able to regulate blood flow. It's like a river whose banks have hardened into concrete. The water still flows, but poorly, and any disruption causes flooding. Now here's an industry truth that very few people talk about openly. The food industry uses sodium not just for flavor, but as a preservative and a texture enhancer. Reduced fat and diet products often have more sodium than their full fat counterparts, because when you remove fat, you lose flavor, and manufacturers compensate with salt. So the person reaching for the lighter option is frequently getting more of one of the most damaging things for their circulatory system. So what do? Become a label detective. The rule I give every single patient is this: no more than 140 milligrams of sodium per serving for any packaged product you buy. That is the threshold for low sodium by FDA definition. Put that number in your phone right now. 140. Every time you pick up a package, flip it over before it goes in your cart. And for flavor, use herbs and acid. Fresh lemon juice, apple cider vinegar, garlic, turmeric, rosemary, black pepper. These don't just replace salt. They actively fight inflammation in your blood vessels. They work for you instead of against you. Now let's move to habit number 4. And this one isn't something you eat. It's something you do. And I include it here because it is one of the most universally damaging patterns I see in my patients over 60, and it is almost universally overlooked. It is prolonged sitting. Now, before you say, I know, sitting is bad, let me tell you something that you almost certainly do not know. It's not the sitting itself that is the primary problem. It's where you sit, how you sit, when you sit, and what happens in your body during the hours you spend sitting. Specifically, the compression cycle it creates in your legs. The mask here is the chair itself. We think of a comfortable chair as a safe, restorative thing.
and it can be. But the edge of a standard chair, the front lip, presses directly against the back of your thighs, right where your femoral vein runs. That's one of the largest veins in your body, the major highway for returning blood from your legs to your heart. Compress that highway for 3, 4, 5 hours, which is completely normal for someone watching television in the evening, and you have essentially put a partial roadblock on the most important return route your leg circulation has. When venous blood, the blood returning to your heart, is slowed in your legs, several things happen simultaneously. First, the pressure in your lower leg veins rises.
That increased pressure forces fluid out of the small blood vessels and into your surrounding tissue. Edema, swelling, heaviness. Second, when blood pools and moves slowly, it becomes what we call hypercoagulable, meaning it has a greater tendency to clot. This is the mechanism behind deep vein thrombosis, the blood clots that form in the deep veins of the legs, which in serious cases can travel to the lungs. Third, the cells lining your veins become deprived of fresh, oxygenated blood. They become inflamed. They release inflammatory compounds that, over time, scar the inner walls of the veins, making the valves less competent, making the vessels less flexible, making the whole system progressively worse over time. And here is the cruelest irony of all. The more your legs ache and feel heavy, the more you want to sit still. But the sitting is making the aching worse. It is a self-reinforcing cycle, a trap that tightens with every hour you spend in that chair.
Research published in the Journal of Applied Physiology demonstrated that even 1 hour of uninterrupted sitting begins to impair the function of the femoral artery, reducing blood flow to the lower leg by up to 50%. 50% in just 1 hour. The good news, and there is spectacular good news here, is that just 2 minutes of walking every 30 minutes completely reverses that impairment. So here is the prescription. Set a timer right now on your phone for every 28 minutes. When it goes off, stand up, walk to your kitchen and back, do 10 calf raises holding onto the counter, march in place for 90 seconds. That's it. And when you are sitting, try to elevate your feet slightly, even just a small rolled-up towel under your ankles to take the compressive pressure off the back of your thighs. Small change, enormous difference over time. Now we move to habit number 3. And this is perhaps the one that surprises my patients the most.
Because it comes disguised as something healthy, something light, something the food industry spent 50 years convincing us was the heart-healthy alternative to butter and animal fat. I'm talking about processed vegetable and seed oils, canola oil, corn oil, soybean oil, sunflower oil, cottonseed oil. These oils are in almost everything. They're in your salad dressings, even the light ones. They're in your crackers, your granola bars, your store-bought hummus, your margarine, your microwave popcorn, and virtually every restaurant meal you have ever eaten, because they are cheap and they have a long shelf life. And they are setting fire to your blood vessels from the inside. Here is the biology, and I'm going to explain it as simply as I possibly can, because this is important. These industrial seed oils are extraordinarily high in a type of fat called omega-6 polyunsaturated fatty acids. Now, omega-6 fat is not evil on its own. Your body needs some of it.
But it becomes deeply problematic in excess, and here's why. Omega-6 fatty acids are the raw material your body uses to produce pro-inflammatory compounds, chemical signals that tell your immune system to mount an inflammatory response. A little bit of this is necessary and healthy. Chronic, high-level amounts of this are catastrophic, and it gets worse. Because these oils are polyunsaturated, meaning they have multiple chemical double bonds in their structure, they are extraordinarily unstable. They oxidize. When they're extracted in factories using high heat and chemical solvents, and when they're heated again in your frying pan, they produce compounds called aldehydes and lipid peroxides, toxic byproducts that are directly damaging to the cells lining your blood vessels.
Think of it as this. If your blood vessels are a pipe, these oxidized oils are like acid-laced rust accelerant. They corrode the inner surface. They trigger inflammation. They contribute to the hardening and narrowing of blood vessels, not just in your heart, but in your legs, your kidneys, your brain, everywhere. And in your legs specifically, this chronic vascular inflammation is one of the primary drivers of the progressive valve failure and circulatory impairment that leads to those heavy, aching, sleepless nights. Here's an industry truth that I believe everyone deserves to know. The campaign against saturated fats and the promotion of vegetable oils began in the 1960s, largely driven by research that has since been substantially contested and, in some cases, shown to have been influenced by the sugar and vegetable oil industries.
The Minnesota Coronary Experiment, one of the largest studies ever done on this topic, found that replacing saturated fat with vegetable oils increased mortality, not decreased it. That data was suppressed for decades. Now, I am not telling you to eat unlimited saturated fat. I am telling you that the story is far more complex than vegetable oil good, butter bad, and that the oils currently sitting in most of your kitchen cabinets may be actively harming you. So replace your cooking oils immediately with 3 alternatives that have stood the test of time and science. Extra virgin olive oil for low and medium heat cooking, dressings, and drizzling, rich in natural anti-inflammatory compounds. Coconut oil for higher heat cooking, stable, saturated, doesn't oxidize easily. Avocado oil, the highest smoke point of any natural oil, perfect for sautéing and roasting.
And become a label detective again. If any packaged product lists canola oil, soybean oil, or vegetable oil in the first 5 ingredients, put it back. Find an alternative. Now we arrive at habit number 2. And this one is one of the most counterintuitive things I will say today, and I need you to listen to this very carefully. You may be chronically dehydrated, and you may not know it, because of the very drinks you are consuming to stay hydrated. The culprits here wear a very convincing mask. They are warm. They are comforting. They are social. They are often marketed as containing antioxidants, as being good for the heart, as being full of electrolytes. I'm talking about excessive caffeine, from coffee, from tea, from energy drinks, and alcohol, including the glass of red wine you've been told is heart healthy. And I want to address both of these with deep nuance, because I am not here to demonize your morning coffee. Context and quantity are everything.
Caffeine is a diuretic. That means it signals your kidneys to produce more urine and excrete more fluid than you are taking in. In a young, resilient body, this effect is relatively mild and easily compensated for. In a body over 60, where kidney function has already naturally declined by 30 to 50% compared to age 30, and where the sensation of thirst has also become blunted, meaning you don't feel thirsty even when you need water, chronic low-level caffeine overconsumption creates a state of persistent, low-grade dehydration. What does dehydration do to your leg circulation? When blood volume drops, even slightly, Your body responds by constricting blood vessels, trying to maintain pressure. This vasoconstriction reduces blood flow to your extremities first, your hands, your feet, your legs. It makes your blood slightly thicker and more prone to clotting. It makes venous return less efficient,
And it exacerbates every other circulatory problem we've discussed. Alcohol is even more insidious. Yes, red wine contains resveratrol, a compound with genuine antioxidant properties. But resveratrol exists in quantities so small in a glass of wine that its benefits are completely negated by the alcohol itself, which is a potent diuretic, a direct vascular toxin, and a compound that specifically disrupts the quality of deep sleep, which is when your body does the majority of its circulatory repair work. Furthermore, alcohol causes peripheral vasodilation. It widens the blood vessels in your skin and extremities. This creates a temporary feeling of warmth, but it also drops blood pressure suddenly and then triggers a rebound constriction several hours later, typically in the middle of the night, when you're lying in bed and your legs feel stiff, cramping, or unsettled. That glass of wine with dinner?
It may be a direct contributor to why you wake up at 2 in the morning with legs that simply won't rest. Studies examining older adults specifically, people over 65, show that more than 40% are in a state of chronic, low-grade dehydration on any given day. Not severe dehydration, not the kind that sends you to the emergency room. The subtle, insidious kind that quietly impairs every system in your body, including your circulation. And critically, older adults frequently do not feel thirsty. The thirst mechanism, which is governed by receptors in the brain, becomes less sensitive with age. You can be significantly volume depleted and feel perfectly fine until your legs tell you otherwise at 10 o'clock at night. So here is the solution. First, the 2 before 1 rule. For every cup of coffee or glass of wine you consume, drink 2 full glasses of water before and after. Not during, before and after. Second, begin your day with 400 to 500 milliliters of plain water before your first cup of coffee, before your phone, before your news, first thing. This replenishes the fluid lost during 7 to 8 hours of breathing overnight and gives your kidneys and circulation what they need to start the day well. Third, limit caffeine to before noon. Caffeine consumed after noon, even in small amounts in people over 60, measurably disrupts the deeper stages of sleep, which are critical for circulatory repair. And fourth, if you enjoy a glass of wine in the evening, limit it to 1 small glass with dinner, not after, and drink a full glass of water with it. Now, before we get to habit number 1, I need you to stay with me, because what I am about to reveal is, by a significant margin, the most destructive thing on this list. It's the one my patients fight me the hardest on. It's the one the food industry has spent billions of dollars making sure you don't connect to your symptoms. And it is, almost certainly, something you consumed in some form today. Number 1. The wolf in sheep's clothing. The sweetest poison. It is sugar, and everything that rapidly becomes sugar in your body. And I want to expand this beyond the obvious, because if I just say, "Don't eat candy," you might nod, close this video, and then have a bowl of white rice for dinner, 2 slices of whole grain toast in the morning, a banana and a glass of orange juice as a healthy snack, and a low-fat yogurt with 28 grams of sugar in it, and never once connect any of that to the aching, swollen, heavy legs keeping you awake at night. Sugar's mask is everywhere. It's in your heart-healthy oatmeal, especially the flavored packets. It's in your fruit juice, which has as much sugar per ounce as Coca-Cola, with virtually none of the fiber that makes eating whole fruit safe.
It's in your bread, white or wheat. It's in your pasta, your crackers, your pretzels, your reduced fat everything. It's in your salad dressings, your ketchup, your teriyaki sauce, your protein bars. And here is the most dangerous disguise of all. It is in what your body does with refined starches. When you eat white bread, white rice, white potato, white pasta, your digestive system converts those starches into glucose, pure sugar, within minutes. Your blood sugar spikes exactly as it would if you had eaten a candy bar. Your body doesn't know the difference, and neither do your blood vessels. What does sugar do to your leg circulation specifically? Let me give you the honest, unvarnished answer. Sugar scars your blood vessels from the inside. When blood sugar rises sharply and repeatedly after decades of meals high in refined carbohydrates, a process called glycation occurs. Glucose molecules attach to proteins in your body, including the proteins that make up the walls of your blood vessels, and deform them. This is literally sugar caramelizing the proteins in your veins and arteries. Just like sugar caramelizes in a hot pan, it caramelizes the structural proteins in your vascular system, making them rigid, brittle, and dysfunctional. The medical term for these caramelized proteins is advanced glycation end products, or AGEs, and they are aptly named because they age your blood vessels faster than almost any other force on Earth. This process destroys the elasticity of your veins. It corrodes the smooth inner lining of your arteries. It hardens the tiny capillaries in your lower legs, making them thicker-walled, narrower, and far less efficient at delivering oxygen to your muscles and nerves and at returning waste fluid back upward. But sugar's attack doesn't stop at glycation. High blood sugar directly inflames every blood vessel in your body. It triggers the release of inflammatory cytokines, chemical fire signals that cause your endothelium to swell, to become sticky, and to become a magnet for inflammatory cells. Over time, this inflammation causes plaque formation, the narrowing of your arteries. In your heart, we call this coronary artery disease. In your legs, we call it peripheral artery disease, and its symptoms are almost identical to what I described at the very beginning of this video: heaviness, aching, fatigue, poor circulation, cold feet, wounds that won't heal. Sugar also devastates your kidneys, and kidney impairment is directly connected to fluid retention and leg swelling, because the kidneys are the master regulators of fluid balance in your body. When kidneys are damaged by decades of high blood sugar, they lose the ability to properly excrete excess fluid. That fluid accumulates in your tissues, in your legs, in your ankles. And finally, sugar destroys the quality of your sleep. Blood sugar fluctuations in the night, the crash that follows an evening of high carbohydrate eating, trigger cortisol and adrenaline release in the early morning hours. These stress hormones constrict your blood vessels, reduce blood flow to your extremities, and cause the restless, uncomfortable leg sensations that jar you awake between 2 and 4 in the morning. This is not coincidence. This is direct, documented, biological cause and effect. And here is something the food industry does not want you to know. Internal documents from major food companies, many of which have been obtained through litigation and investigative journalism, show that these companies deliberately funded research to shift blame away from sugar and toward dietary fat. The goal was to protect a product that is inexpensive to produce, profoundly addictive, activating the same dopamine pathways as certain drugs, and present in virtually every processed food product on the market.
You were not weak for becoming dependent on sweet foods. You were targeted. So what do? Start with the 2-week sugar audit. For 14 days, write down every single carbohydrate-containing food you eat. Not to count calories, simply to see what you're actually consuming. Most of my patients are genuinely shocked. Then, begin replacing one high-sugar item per day with a whole food alternative. White rice becomes cauliflower rice, or a small portion of quinoa. Flavored yogurt becomes plain Greek yogurt with a handful of fresh blueberries. Orange juice becomes a whole orange, with its fiber intact, which dramatically slows the sugar absorption. Bread becomes lettuce wraps, or a whole-grain sourdough where the fermentation process has partially broken down the starches. Add cinnamon to your morning routine, half a teaspoon in your water or food. Clinical research consistently shows that cinnamon improves insulin sensitivity and blunts post-meal blood sugar spikes. Add apple cider vinegar, a tablespoon in water before meals, which has the same effect through different mechanisms. These are not magical cures, but they are real, documented tools that can help your body begin to recover. And now I want to take a moment, before I let you go, to shift gears, because I know that this kind of information, the countdown, the biology, the consequences, can feel overwhelming. It can feel like a list of indictments, like everything you've done is wrong, like it's too late to matter. I need you to hear me clearly when I say, it is not too late. I have seen a 74-year-old woman with significant, documented damage to her leg veins reduce her nighttime symptoms by 70% in 12 weeks. Not with surgery, not with expensive medications, with dietary changes, with movement, with hydration, with the things we talked about today. I have seen men in their late 60s who hadn't slept through the night in years because of restless, aching legs, rediscover what it feels like to lie down and feel nothing. Just peace. Just rest. Your body is not done fighting for you. It never stops trying to heal. Every single night while you sleep, your cells are working, repairing, rebuilding, regenerating. All they need is for you to stop throwing obstacles in their way. So let me give you your action plan. 5 things to do starting today. 1. Become a sodium label detective. 140 milligrams per serving. Memorize that number. 2. Set a 28-minute timer while sitting. Move for 2 minutes every single time. 3. Replace your cooking oils. Olive oil, coconut oil, avocado oil. Throw out the rest. 4. 2 glasses of water before your first coffee, and stop caffeine at noon. 5. Begin your 2-week sugar audit today. Write it down. See the truth. Then replace one item, just one, with a whole food alternative. That's 5 actions. Not 50, 5. Anyone can do 5 things. And now I want to ask you something important. Think about someone you love who might be struggling with this. A spouse who shifts in bed every night because their legs won't let them rest. A sister or a brother who says their legs just feel old. A friend who's been told by their doctor to just elevate your feet, without ever being told why this is happening or what they can actually do about it. Information is power. The things we discussed today, the sodium hiding in your crackers, the chair compressing your veins, the vegetable oils corroding your blood vessels, the caffeine quietly dehydrating you, and the sugar caramelizing your arteries. Nobody is advertising these truths. The food industry certainly isn't.
The pharmaceutical industry would much rather sell you a water pill than tell you to read a nutrition label.
So if this video gave you even one piece of information that felt like a light turning on, please share it. Share it with your children. Share it with your friends. Share it with the people in your life who are quietly suffering and who deserve to know that they are not powerless against this. Because here is the truth I have carried with me through 22 years of practice. The most powerful medicine on earth is knowledge, followed by the courage to act on it. You came to this video today because something in your body was asking for attention. That heaviness in your legs at night is not a complaint, it's a conversation. Your body speaking to you in the only language it has. Today, you learned to listen. And more than that, today, you learned to answer. Take care of your health, because you are worth every effort it requires. And I will see you in the next video.